Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Thank you for stopping by and checking out this video. Welcome to the Tea Factory podcast. Thank you for stopping by and listening and reviewing this episode with me today. Please subscribe, comment, like. Please subscribe because the channel does need to grow and I have been trying to get the channel to grow. So if you would subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. So today we are going to review the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16, episode 8. Episode 8 is called Boots on the Ground. And so before we get started, I'm just going to go over the copyright section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976 says that there's allowance for fair use of copyrighted material for such purposes as criticism, comments, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research as examples of activities that may qualify as fair use. All commentary is alleged, and in my opinion, basically, I usually just go through scene by scene of the episode and I'll give my commentary and my opinion of the scene. If I really don't have too much to say about the scene, we'll just, move forward and go to the next scene. So this is episode 8 of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 16. So this episode opens up with Shamia singing a corny country song. I thought it was corny, in my opinion. Other people might love it, and I like Shamia. Shamia is my girl, but I didn't care for that song. I thought it was corny. And then it also opens up with a scene with Britt on the phone. She's on the phone with her husband Michael. So basically, she's just giving him an update. I'm talking to him, and then of course, she's talking about Angela. So she's always like either talking about Angela or Kenya. So since Kenya's no longer in the picture, so she's fixated on Angela. So she talks to him about Angela and how they still got that little beef going on. And she says that, she does not know why Angela keeps advocating for Drew to come. And, she says that she's just not going to pay Angela any attention and keep her guard up when it comes to Angela. And, so that was that scene. So moving to the next scene, Shamia's on the phone with her husband also. And he had to take Shiloh to the doctor's. She had a doctor's appointment. Shiloh has some sort of, I think it was an ear infection. If you remember, Shiloh is the one that was carried by the surrogacy. And she's had health complications since she's been born. So I have been following that story of Shiloh. And I just, always keep her in my thoughts and prayers. And she's going to be all right. So, Shamia starts, getting sensitive and emotional about not being there to take Shiloh to the doctor with her husband. And then, and she talks about how he's always been there. And they have been in this struggle together when it comes to Shiloh's health. And then, she talks about how they're trying to have another baby and they're trying to grow their family. Her husband wants to have a son. And, that's typical, African thing. He's African. He's Kenyan. And so in most African countries, they always want a son because they want the son to carry the last name, the name of the family. So the father's name usually is the last name. And then they, in most African households, they want the lineage to continue. So they usually want to have a son to carry the family name. So quite naturally, her husband wants to have a baby boy. So then next scene we have Angela. Angela, she is sitting at the pool. Cynthia comes over and sits and talks with Angela. And basically, Cynthia is telling Angela, like, listen, I understand Drew's your friend, and you're standing up for Drew and taking up for Drew, but you also have to understand where Porsha's coming from, because the baby daddies hit different. And then Angela says her loyalty is to her friends, and Drew's her friend, so her loyalty is to Drew. And she stays 10 toes down for her friends, which is cool. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But like Cynthia said, she also has to understand where Porsha's coming from. When she was decided that she wanted to work with Dennis, all she had to do was let her know. And at the end of the day, really, who knows if she did or didn't? This all could be just for the show. Like, we don't even know the backstory. But from what they're giving us and what we're seeing on TV, that's all she had to do. And that's all Cynthia's trying to communicate to Angela. For example, she said, somebody better not come looking for Leon. Well, Leon is her baby daddy, her daughter's father. So she's saying that Noelle's dad, which is Leon, she said if somebody was doing that with him, she would be upset as well. So she understands where Porsha's coming from. And then she also understands Angela's loyalty to Drew because she's her friend. So then they show Drew showing up. She pulled up, looked like an Uber or whatever. Drew shows up. Cynthia greets her. Drew says that she's trying to move on and move forward in her confessional. She says she's trying to move forward, and she's, doesn't want to have any drama and stuff like that. But I can't tell, because she's always throwing shade at Porsha whenever she can. She gets on her confessional, she says one thing, and then in the same breath, she throws shade. So then Drew goes and sees her room. Angela tells Drew, basically where her room is. And her room is the room that has the 2 bunk beds. And Drew wasn't happy about that. And then also Angela tells Drew she needs to go speak to Porsha. She was like, have you spoken to Porsha yet? She says no. Drew says no, why? And then Angela's like, you need to speak to her, so you can get some of this heat off of me, because, her and Porsha have been going at it regarding her inviting Drew without Porsha's permission. And then Drew tells her, listen, you brought this on yourself. Nobody told you to do what you did. Drew tells Angela she brought the war on herself. And, and y'all know I don't agree with Porsha. I don't agree with Drew on anything, but I have to agree on Drew with this one. She's right. I agree with her 1,000%. Nobody told Angela to stick her nose where it didn't belong and to invite Drew. So she's right. This is something that she brought on herself. So the next couple scenes are just scenes of the girls getting together. They're in their glam chair. They're in the bathrooms getting together. And then there's some girls sitting downstairs already who are ready to go. And they're waiting to go for their outing that they have planned for the day. So Drew comes into the living room where everybody's sitting. And then, I don't know, is it me or does Kelly and Britt always have their butts out? Like, the outfits that they wear, Kelly and Britt, their booties are always sticking out. Like, it's always like a see-through. It's always like some kind of, I don't know. They're not fully clothed, okay? They need to put some clothes on. And especially Kelly, she has girls. She has 4 girls, and she's always got her butt out. Anyway, so moving along, and then they also show Porsha and Shamia in the bathroom getting ready, and they're talking and they're getting along like the besties that they are, and they've known each other their whole lives. So, and then Porsha gives Drew a hug. She's trying to be cordial towards Drew. In her confessional, she says she doesn't want no drama. She's trying to get along, and she's trying to be cordial with Drew, so she gives Drew a hug. And then everybody is finally ready. They all get in that vehicle to go to the events that they have planned for the day. They leave the house. So while they're en route to go, Shamia says that she received a text message from someone, and it triggered her. And it triggered her regarding a previous relationship that she was in which was a domestic violence relationship, and she starts crying. And then she said also the news about Shiloh having to go to the doctor's appointment. Coupled with that, it just kind of, it was just a lot for her to bear. So she got emotional and she started crying. And it looked like Kelly was comforting her. I was surprised though, because it's like Porsha did not get up to try to comfort her or nothing. Like Porsha does not be paying Shamia no mind. She doesn't pay Shamia any mind. Like she didn't get up to give her a hug. She didn't get up to comfort her or anything. Everybody else that was sitting back there with Shamia had to comfort her. But Porsha did not try to comfort her. And that's her friend. That's supposed to be her best friend. They were just in the bathroom kikiing and laughing and talking about the rib that Porsha was in, that she had in the bathroom, that she had ate, that she had saved. So, from the dinner, from the barbecue. So I just thought that was odd. I kind of, peeped that out, that Porsha wasn't, very comforting to her. And then Shamia asked Cynthia how her mom is doing, because her mom also is a victim of domestic violence. And then they flash back and go to, I think, I don't remember what season it was. And but I do remember seeing that episode where they did like an ad for domestic violence, an awareness for domestic violence, and Cynthia's mom was in that video that they made. And so Shamia, just asked her, and then Cynthia in her confessional, she's talking about her mother, her strength, and what a wonderful, strong mother she is. So and she said her mom is good, so to answer Shamia's question, she's like, my mom's doing good. She's a strong woman, she's survived domestic violence, just like so many other women have. So that was that scene. So the next scene, they're showing the girls arriving at their, one group went to do a whiskey tasting, and then the other group went to this restaurant or bar that's called Coyote Ugly. Now, if you're old enough to know, Coyote Ugly was a movie that Tyra Banks starred in. So apparently it was based on that restaurant in Nashville that the girls went to. So I didn't even know it was based on a true or real location, but it's good to know. So I learned something on that. But I like that movie with Tyra Banks, Coyote Ugly. And so in this scene, the girls are taking shots without having to use their hands. They were given instructions, don't use your hands, because coyotes don't have hands, and you have to take the shot from the bar with no hands. And Kelly, Porsha, and Shamia. I don't think I'm missing anybody else. I think it's just those three. And they did a good job of taking those shots. So then they pan over to the next group. The next group is at Nashville Barrel. It's a whiskey testing place. And it looked good. It sounds like that's like my kind of time. Okay, that's something I would want to do. So they're there, and so Drew says that she wants to take a bottle of whiskey to Porsha as a goodwill gesture. And I don't know how. Porsha might take the alcohol because she likes to drink. Porsha drinks Hennessy. Okay. She drinks Hennessy. I can't drink Hennessy. Don't even like Hennessy. That's too strong. But Porsha, I swear, it seems like in every scene she's ordering Hennessy on the rocks. So if Drew did give her a bottle of whiskey, I believe Porsha would have accepted it. She would have appreciated it. However, I don't know if that would have sufficed for the little beef that they got going on, though. So, and then then they're talking. So then they go back to Porsha's group. So Porsha's talking about how she feels about Angela. She feels that Angela set Drew up by inviting Drew without telling her. So that way everybody can be upset and have an animosity towards Drew. So when Drew came it would be, the beef that it is, So she's like, if she was such a true friend, why didn't she tell me she invited her? So she feels like she set Drew up for everybody to be mad at Drew by inviting her without telling her. And to be honest with you, I kind of agree with Porsha. Like, it was shady and sketchy. Why didn't you tell Porsha that you invited Drew? It does seem like a setup. And if it's not a setup, it wasn't a good look. I mean, we can talk about this and until the cows come home, or what they say, beating a dead horse. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. She invited her, she came. So at the end of the day, Porsha, just deal with it. Okay, just deal with it. It is what it is. So Angela said that she invited Drew without Porsha's permission because she was trying to help them mend their relationship. But it didn't mend their relationship, it fumbled. Okay. And then Angela and Britt start arguing about their situation. So, Britt is going to take any and every chance that she gets to bring up her situation. I feel like Britt has this victim complex. Like, it's always about her. It's about how she feels or what she has going on. Like, ever since that thing that happened with her and Kenya, she's been playing the victim role. And it's funny because Porsha called Angela victim Mia at that dinner table, or at that table that they, when everybody was there, even her friends from Atlanta. But the other person that she could have gave that name to, victim Mia, is also Britt. In my opinion, I feel like Britt is always playing the role of a victim of what happened to her, or what Kenya did to her, even though what Kenya did was wrong. But you don't have to keep beating the dead horse. Just like with this situation with Drew being there uninvited, they keep beating the dead horse. Like, let her go. Let her go. Like Frozen. Let her go. Let it go. Let it go. Both of them need. Britt needs to let that go. The situation with her and Angela. And then Drew and Porsha need to let their issue go. So Cynthia Bailey takes up for Britt, So Cynthia Bailey's like, listen, how would you feel if that happened to you, if you were humiliated like that, if you had RP done to you? And that is RP. That's what Kenya did, unfortunately, is RP. So Cynthia takes up for her, even though Cynthia is friends with Kenya. But wrong is wrong and right is right. So shout out to Cynthia Bailey for taking up for Britt in that regards, because she could have said, like, Kenya's my friend. I'm going to stay 10 toes down with Kenya. I don't care if she was wrong. So shout out to Cynthia for saying that Kenya was wrong and for taking up for Britt. So then everybody was able to agree with Cynthia and kind of see things from Britt's point of view. And Angela apologized to Britt. And I think they squashed it and they made up, but we'll see. So then next scene, everybody's getting on the bus. They said the whiskey was whiskey, and the people who went to the whiskey place, they were a little bit lit. And it's funny because they showed Cynthia Bailey drinking whiskey back to back to back. Like, she was enjoying that whiskey outing and she was tearing it up. And hey, I'm not mad at her. Okay. Then they get back to the house and Cynthia and Britt are talking. Britt tells Cynthia that she is thankful and she appreciates her for taking up for her and having her back, and that's what's up. And then they show Porsha on the phone with PJ on FaceTime. And so, everybody's like, some of them say that they're going to take a nap before they go to Porsha's cowboy dinner for the evening. But in the meantime, they show Porsha on the phone with PJ on FaceTime. And then Cynthia Bailey comes down looking beautiful, ready. She's ready for dinner. The rest of them, I don't know what they're doing, taking naps, getting ready in their glams or whatever. But Cynthia was the first one ready. She comes downstairs and she's looking at the young men as eye candy. And it looks like they were looking at her as eye candy as well. So Cynthia goes to sit on the couch with a drink. Britt comes down. And she's like, look at Miss Cynthia Bailey. So Miss Cynthia Bailey is the classy lady, honey, okay? Then Drew comes down, then Shamia, and then Angela, and then Kelly. Kelly comes in with the dress that looks like she went to Montana, killed a cow, a brown cow, and then had them make a dress for her out of that cow's, what's it called? I don't know what it's called. The skins of the cow. Look like cow skin. I didn't like that dress. I did not care for that dress. I thought it was a hot mess. But hey, you know. And then Porsha arrives, or she comes downstairs rather, because you know everybody's is meeting downstairs in the living room. Porsha comes downstairs with an attitude. Porsha has an attitude, you know. So Kelly's like, Porsha P, what's wrong? What's wrong, Porsha? And Porsha has an attitude. She's not speaking to nobody. She's not saying anything. And then Shamia's like, in her confessional, she's like, oh, hell. Porsha has all black on. That is not a good sign. No telling what's wrong with Porsha, you know. So then Porsha says in her confessional scene that after she got off the phone with PJ, someone sent her a message to let her know that Dennis and Drew have been filming behind her back. And she didn't know, you know, so she didn't know about it. So she told Dennis, you cannot film with Drew. I better not see you on these cameras with this girl. He had been warned and he didn't listen, honey. So she is pissed off. So she's big mad, has an attitude. Okay, I mean, I understand her being upset and having an attitude, but I felt like it was also a little bit childish the way she was acting. But let's just move along. So the next scene at the dinner table, they go outside to the backyard, and then there's this cowboy show. So there's this big ass dude comes out, and he's like a dancing instructor, and he tells them that they're going to dance, and he's gonna, you know, show them how to dance, and then invite some. And he invited some company with him. So he had these guys. They look like male escort to me, okay? And this is like the wrong scene right now when you got... I'm not even going to go there. I was going to say something about the P. Diddy trial, but I'm not going to say that. But anyway, so it looked like a male escort, okay? So I'm just going to keep it under housewife. I'm not going to compare notes and stuff like that. Stay focused. I'm going to stay focused. So they look like male escort. They look like male strippers. They look like, you know, I mean, they had clothes on. They were clothes, pants, jeans, cowboy boots. They just, you know, I don't know. And then, you know, Drew in her confessional, she says she didn't see any eye candy. Now, I have to agree with Drew. This is the second time that I've agreed with Drew on this episode. This is, you know, y'all know I don't like Drew, but I'm having to agree with Drew twice now. So none of them were eye candy. I agree with her. And especially she's married to Ralph. Now, Ralph, y'all know Ralph is fine as wine. He might be a dirty bastard and doing her wrong and shady and everything else. But as far as his physique, you know, he's handsome on the face. He has a nice body. So her husband is eye candy, or soon to be ex-husband is eye candy. So I could see her feeling like those guys were blah. Okay. And so they start doing the dance. Now I can see why this episode is called Boots on the Ground also, because, you know, they were dancing, trying to do that Boots on the Ground dance right now. That's a hot song that's out by the brother from South Carolina. Boots on the Ground is the name of the song, and they were doing the dancing. So I see why they called that this episode Boots on the Ground. So they're dancing. Kelly's always loud and wrong, just being loud, doing whatever, not following instructions. So they sitting down to have dinner. They're talking about their issues. Angela is going after Porsha. Now, I don't know why Angela is going after Porsha. I don't know if the producers told Angela to go after Porsha, but Angela was going after Porsha hard in this scene to me. It's my opinion. I feel like, you know, Porsha is like supposed to be the queen be of the season, and everybody's either her friend or not her friend. Everybody's like going against her. It's like, she's the queen bee, so everybody's like trying to get her off, take her off her throne. That's my opinion, and so Angela's coming hard at Porsha, trying to hold Porsha accountable for what, I don't even know, to be honest with you. So so she's saying that, she tells Kelly, well, Kelly, did you ever get the answer to your question? And what she's referring to is when episode 1, I believe, when Kelly asked Porsha, why did she take that woman's husband? And then Kelly's like I've moved past that. Like, I'm not even tripping off of that anymore. That question doesn't even bother me, or it doesn't even matter to me anymore. And Porsha's like ignoring everybody. She's eating her salad. She's not answering nobody's questions. She's not commenting. I don't know what's wrong with her, but Angela just keeps on poking and poking. And she's not listening to anything Drew's saying or Porsha, because then Drew feels like she's being completely ignored, and Drew says then that she's going to leave because Porsha is not engaging or talking to her, because Drew tries to talk, so Drew tries to talk to Porsha. Portia's not listening to Angela or Drew. Okay. And so then Porsha says that in her confessional that she could have met the girls right where they were, or she could have, got into it with them or lit the place on fire or whatever, but she didn't. So basically she just ignores Porsha ignores Angela and Drew completely. She doesn't engage in their conversation that they're trying to have, and they're trying to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. But because Porsha has an attitude, because somebody told her Drew was filming with Dennis, she's mad, so she ignores everybody. So then Drew gets mad and she leaves, and she says, well, I'm not going to stay here, especially when I'm not even wanted or invited. So Drew gets just an attitude, she leaves. And then Porsha gets an attitude, she leaves. And then they show the next scene, Drew taking her shoes off, I guess getting ready to go to bed or whatever. She leaves the dinner table. They don't leave to go home. Obviously, they're still in Nashville. They're still at that house. They're still at their Airbnb. So Drew goes to her room. Porsha goes to her room. And then they show Angela and Shamia talking to Drew, trying to, comfort her and see what's going on with her. Then they show Cynthia going to Porsha's room, talking to Porsha about Drew, and basically Cynthia's trying to get an understanding, like, what's going on? I thought y'all was friends. At one point you guys were very close. What happened? Why are you guys not seeing eye to eye anymore? And then so Porsha shares with Cynthia that Porsha is basically telling Cynthia that it's not even that deep. If Drew had just come to her, it's that beef with her and Dennis. So then they go downstairs and everybody is in their swimming suit. Well, okay, let me back up a little bit. So then Cynthia basically, helps Porsha get over her little hump, and and they hug and kiki and stuff and tell each other how much they love each other. So then Cynthia's like, okay, let's go back downstairs. And then they go downstairs, but Cynthia seems like to have gone to her room and gone to bed or whatever, because they don't show Cynthia, but they show everybody, not everybody, but they show some of the girls downstairs in their swimsuit, especially Britt looking like a blow-up doll. And then Porsha joins them, and they're at the pool twerking, drinking, throwing money, and doing the most. Okay, so the next morning, the next scene is the next morning where Kelly and Britt is in bed, and they're talking about the time that they had the night before, and they flash back to Porsha twerking. damn near looking like she didn't have anything on, but she had some pants on that had, I don't know, I didn't care for it. Anyway, and then Britt says that she heard that Angela was recording them, and she said that Angela said that she heard everything. So basically they were making so much noise that Angela couldn't even sleep. So Angela heard them talking about her, calling her names, talking about her husband. So then Angela tells the producers in her confessional that she heard Porsha say that she could F Charles Oakley, which is her husband. Angela said that she heard them talking about her dress, and they were being disrespectful towards her, and she felt disrespected. They were disrespecting her marriage, and Porsha, I guess, had too much to drink, and she was talking about effing her husband. That's what Angela said she heard, allegedly. I'm going to say allegedly because that's what Angela said she heard, and that's what she told the producers in her confessional. So that's that. Then the next scene, Drew and Angela are downstairs with the luggage ready to go, and then Angela she's had enough. She's leaving. She's not trying to stay there another day or another night. And honestly, I think everybody was probably going to leave that day, but Angela was up early, had her luggages ready. She was ready to go. She had enough. So Angela gets in the car and she leaves to go back home to Atlanta. And that was the end of that scene. And that was not only the end of that scene, but that episode. So hopefully we'll get to see in the next episode what happened with Porsha and Angela. So that's the end of episode 8, Boots on the Ground. Thank you for joining me on this review. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you. Bye.